Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning in to the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, your host, joined today with my favorite co-host in the whole wide world. Hello, Sasha.
Hi, guys. Hi.
I'm so happy to be here because here's the deal. It is time for the summer sync up, time for the mid-year reflection, maybe even time for a second half reset. And we're going to just kind of cover it all. So I thought it'd be nice because I don't know about you, but I literally am like I do every year, holy crap, how is it the middle of the year already?
Yeah, I know. I'm pulling out my phone as we speak so that I can properly give everyone a diagnosis and rundown of my life since January, because I feel like last time we did this, I was in a really weird place. I was not doing social media whatsoever. And so it was difficult. Like you had said, what about February? Or what about, September? And what about this? And I had forgotten so many key things. And it was because I was using my social media to retrack everything, and I had completely taken that off. So this time we're just going to go through pictures.
Nice. It's funny you say that because I'm not a huge social media fan. I never have been. But I would say even just recently, probably in the last year or so, I have been more intentional about posting things that I want to make sure I have a memory of. Not that I'm not going to have a real memory of it. Obviously, I hope that I will, but it really is nice to get that that memory come up. And I think about 10 years from now, when I get the memory, right? So I have kind of shifted my mindset around some of the things that I post, not because, look at me and what I'm doing, but I'm posting it for me so that in 5 years, the memory comes up and I can enjoy it or really think about, wow, how far I've come.
Yeah, I love that you say that because I know when we first met, you were not on the social media train. But then additionally, when you said, I'm posting it for me. Well, this last year, I have done so much individual growth. And one of the things that had happened to me this last year is that I was asked to basically silence myself, and to not post. And I'm over that. I'm not doing that. As far as Instagram goes, I did take out and I will start posting again on my 36th birthday. My 35th birthday was a huge movement for me, and I did go silent as far as Instagram goes. But now when I look back and I will post on my 36th birthday, I will be doing this for me. I will be sharing my accomplishments for me. And it doesn't matter if it irks anyone out there. That was a literal direct word used to me. Irk. I'm not doing it anymore. If you don't want to watch it, then just unfollow or do whatever you have to do to remove me out of your life, but I'm not going to remove me out of my own life.
Beautiful. You know what? I love the word irk. I haven't used that in so long. No, I'm bringing it back into my vocabulary. Well, so let's go back to January. Let's really do this, right? January 2023. Oh my goodness. Well, of course, most people know I have a vision board event every year. You were in Chile, so you did not participate this time because you were off doing fabulous things, which we'll hear about in a moment. But I was actually in Hawaii doing my vision board event because I was in Hawaii helping my mom get her new hip. And I mean, if I have to think about a highlight so far for the year, that was definitely one of them. Just to get to be there, especially because I'd been through it and, could kind of be the person who literally has done it and can.
Times two.
Yeah. Yes. Times two. Exactly. And just to be able to be there for my mom. And I think even more so for my dad, because my dad's the worrier. Right. And so that I could say, Dad, this is totally normal what mom's doing. She's fine. She's not overdoing it. This is what she should be doing. Or, to be kind of on top of anything that we might have had to be aware of. But the other thing that randomly happened while I was there, they've been wanting to leave Hawaii and move back to Wisconsin. And so they had their eye on this property. And my dad's like, well, you're here and your mom's doing great. And I know you can fully take care of her. Like, you don't need me. So he did a quick 4-day turnaround trip to Wisconsin, looked at this property. came back with the biggest smile on his face that I have seen in years. And I was like, okay, here we go. So that I was able to be there for that to happen also, I think it just felt good. And to see that they really were excited and ready to leave and excited to just go back and be where they're very comfortable and have that big load off their mind and get back into an environment that they really feel connected to. It felt good to be part of it, but also just to see it in real life instead of over phone and Zoom. You don't know. So yeah, I think that was definitely a highlight for me in January.
Yeah, January was the month for my sabbatical. So, for those of you that don't know, I completely take January off. I mean, I'm talking work, I'm talking social media, I'm really talking phone, like everything. I disconnect from everyone and I just try to connect to God and to connect to my true inner self and my inner being. And on in January, I did go to Chile with my best friend and my travel partner Stacy, and I received so many downloads while I was there. The trip itself was so incredible that I could probably spend 2 episodes talking about the W trek, which is what we did, and the towers and how resilient I felt and the time difference and we talked about the sun a couple episodes ago where the sun, the UV was a 14 there. It was insane. But one of the most impactful moments that happened to me when I was in Chile was the day where it was 45-mile-per-hour wind. Okay, and for you to know, we were hiking the Patagonia, and the Patagonia, she's her own being. Like, you never know what she's going to show up as and what she's going to put out. And so everyone was telling us that we had gotten extremely lucky because we never experienced any storms or any crazy, crazy climate, with the exception of the day that we had this 45-mile-per-hour wind. And while I was out there walking, I was walking in this wind and I could just feel Mother Nature telling me, you need this wind to like blow all of your energy through you, like blow all the negativity through you, blow all of the things that have happened this last year through you, and just almost as like a cleansing. Like, I was cleansed by Mother Nature in Patagonia with this severe wind. And I'm talking like couldn't even stand up right because the wind was so powerful. Like, if you had flip flops on, they would have blown off of you with one footstep. The wind was insane. But I really reconnected to my ancestors and I learned a lot about the culture and I just really felt at home. I felt like I was a native. I got to speak a lot of Spanish. And we hiked 55 miles in 4 days. It was an incredible journey. It was great to do it with my best friend. She really helped me navigate through my own inner dialogue as well as the dialogue that was happening around me.
That is such an amazing experience. I love that you have had that you did it. I hope everybody has the opportunity to do something really life changing like that. And you don't know how life changing it's going to be until you do it. And to get to do it with your best friend, that's super special, obviously, as well. And yeah, that's fantastic. When I think about February, I feel like for me, February is usually kind of like the start of the work year because nobody's ready to start in January. I was like, oh my gosh, you must be so busy. I'm like, no, no, nobody's ready. So February for me is like, okay, all the seeds have been planted, all the things are booked, and now we're going to get to work. And got to start another round of the U Revolution, year 10. We started that the last week of February. And once I start that, it is like head down and work. Like that is what's happening for the next 8 weeks. And March, April, and May tend to be my busiest months of the year anyway, and they sure were. But what about you? Anything
Yeah,
anything noteworthy in
I'm
February?
looking at my phone just for my recap. I'm going month to month. And in February was my last lit event. Yeah, for it was
Right.
yeah, Valentine's, it was Galentine's. It was crazy because I didn't know how much change was going to be happening. But, you know, like in February, I would never have known that I would be dissolving Lit Inc. as a nonprofit. I took a step back and realized that there's just a lot to do, and this one person can't do it alone. And so I think out of February, the main thing that I have here to show is that, you know, Lit, I'm looking at these pictures. I had the Lit Lady of the Year, and I had my Galentines and all that stuff. So I would say the highlight of February would be closing, like not knowing, but that was going to be the end cap of that book, you know? So yeah, that would be the most substantial or thing that came out to me in February.
Yeah, and I don't think we've actually ever talked about that on the
No.
show, that you did
Mhm.
dissolve Lit, and I was
We
actually
will
gonna
talk
bring
about
that
that
up because
in March.
right, yeah,
Yeah, in March.
March is when that really, and this is maybe, I mean, I say this about so many of things that you do and show me, but I think this was maybe one of my most proudest moments of you,
Mm.
coming to the realization that it is okay to end something when it is not serving me, and not only
Absolutely.
is it not serving me, but it's causing a lot of harm.
So much
And
harm.
I know it was really difficult because, Sasha, you were the kind that when you say you're gonna do something, you follow through and you do it no matter what. And often you do it at your expense.
Yeah, and at this one, it was my health and my mental health. I
Yeah,
mean, both I was physically and also mentally, like, exhausted.
yeah. And I know it was still a hard decision, even though physically and mentally exhausted, it was still a hard decision because, you felt like you were going to be letting people down. There were a lot of people who were on the board and really excited about it. And I know those are all the reasons we keep doing something that we know we should stop doing, because we don't want to let everybody else down, right? Or we don't want them to judge us or what they're going to say about it. And that you recognize putting yourself first, and whatever happens, it's going to be fine. And I mean, that's a very big moment. So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think lead this into March, because the big moment happened in March.
yeah,
My intuition, all that stuff happened in March. So tell me about your March.
yeah. Well, gosh, March is when like all the shit started showing up in my life, quite honestly. But it's funny. So just the other day, I was kind of catching up with a friend because we hadn't spoken in a while. And when I told her all the things, she's like, "Wow, you've had a really crappy year." And I'm like, "No, actually, I've had a really amazing year. I've just had three really crappy things happen."
I wouldn't even call them crappy. I would just say that they were time
Right.
filling. Yeah, they were just filling. They were, I don't know.
Life is happening. That's it. So, yeah, I mean, again, March, super busy with work. Love it. I love all the things I get to do and get to be in front of people, and really now in the groove of the U Revolution, and making the connection with all the participants in it, and just, getting busier with work. And I mean, I get so fulfilled by the work I do. That really is what feeds my soul and lights my fire. And getting in front of new groups and faces is always exciting. So there was a lot of that in March, but March is also when I finally got in to see the dermatologist. And so that whole process started. And if you've listened, if you haven't, you should, because I'm not going to reiterate the whole melanoma diagnosis. But that was the first piece of news. A week later, I finally got a tenant out of my rental property. He'd been a tenant. So I've owned this property for 20 years. I lived in it for 10. And then it was a rental for 10 years since I moved to my other place. It was a amazing rental. Love it. Very good income generator for me. And I had this tenant in there for a little over 4 years. He's always had challenges, and I'm that girl. I'm the landlord who rents to people that nobody in their right mind would rent to. Never. And yet I do. And he always made it work. But last July, he lost his job and just could never gain traction again. And so I was like, look, you got to go. Like, you have to go. And, I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have any money. And I'm like, look, you got to go. So I told him March 23rd, I will have $500 for you. If you give me this key, this key, this key, and this key, I will have $500 cash for you. I don't know what I was going to expect. I don't know what I was stepping into. He was there in the lobby. I gave him $500 cash. He gave me the keys, and he said to me, "I'm sorry for what you're going to find in there." Yeah, boy, so am I. Without getting into all the details, let's just say he left literal shit. His, as well as his cats, as well as all of his stuff. Right. Like this is the stuff you see on like a TV show. So clear mental health issues, right? Feel like, oh my God, he's such a jerk. He said, no, he is a very sick human being. It's very sad. Unfortunately, I am on the receiving end of his illness. It's not cool. But it is what it is. I'm grateful he's out. I wish him all the best. I hope he made it to wherever he was going to go and that he gets the help he needs. But now his problem is my problem. And unfortunately, insurance covers $0 of it. If he would have burned it down, I would get a full replacement value, but he didn't. So instead, I get to spend $30,000+ making it livable and nice. But even at this moment, I'm like, whatever. It's time and money. It's fine, right? Again, this is life. It's time and money. Cancer, fine. Time and money. It's fine. In the meantime, I'm so busy with work. I can't even think about it or deal with it. So I'm just like, he's out. It's fine. I got it all cleaned out and like a clean slate. I'll worry about fixing it up. I just got to get through April. I got to get through April and then I can think about it. So that was kind of the beginning of, a lot of stuff that went on, and those two big things happened in March.
March, I came and visited you.
Yes.
Yeah.
How could I forget the most amazing part about March?
Well, that'll be my March. How's that? That's why you forgot it, because that's mine. So March, I came and visited you, and we started working on a side project that will eventually come out. Who knows when, but it will happen. And on the very last day that I was there, probably like a couple hours even before I had to leave, like maybe an hour before I had to leave your apartment and head back to the airport, I just looked at you and I was like, hey, I forgot to talk to you about lit. What do you lit and lit fest and all this? What do you think I should do? And you're like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, what? How do you feel? Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I just need to end it. And you're like, cool, I think you should. And I was like, what? And you're like, yeah, just end it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then, so really that was a pivotal time. Yeah, sure. We got, great one-on-one time. Yeah. We worked on a project, which was beautiful. But I think the best thing that came out of March was the clarity that I needed to put myself first and maybe not others. I don't care at what expense or what that looks like. Even what I like to tell people now is taking that L, taking that loss, having that L associated to me. But at the end of the day, like, look at me, I can take an L and move forward. So like, what's that say about me? It says that I can be open, honest, and when I need to, I can be humble and say, okay, it didn't work. I tried, I gave it my all, and we're going to move on. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah. And it was, I did not forget about that weekend. Honestly, that was one of my most treasured times of this year as well. Just getting to have that one-on-one time and our fun photo shoot with A-Rod and his wife. And we were like blessed with amazing weather. And what's funny is, like 10 days later, I get this cancer diagnosis. And so when we get the photos, I look back, I'm like, oh, I had cancer at that time. How funny is that? Right? Like,
that's crazy.
So weird, right? But that also just goes to like stuff is happening all the time. You just don't know it's happening. So even with you and lit, right? Like that was ready to happen. You just needed the knowledge that it needed to happen. And because you are the one that had to make it happen, you needed to have that maybe a little bit of license to do it, or, the little nudge, the permission to do it.
And support. I think that's what I really needed, is just the permission slip and the support from you. And then once I got that, I was like, cool, I'm done.
Yeah. And I could literally see like 1,000,000 pounds of stress lift right off of you.
I mean, if you can't tell, just between April, when I will get into this, or maybe I'll just get into it now, for my April, crawled out of my hole, my deep, dark hole. I started to just slowly but surely just pick and climb my way out of it. And I did this by soliciting a holistic doctor. So that's going to be my April. My April is going to my holistic doctor. Now she's an actual doctor. She has her degree. She could practice at a hospital if she wants to, but she doesn't. So she'll take your blood work and all that stuff. But the combination of quitting lit and starting all of my herbal supplements and getting myself back on track, I've lost like 8 pounds. And so you can, it's all that stress, all that cortisol level. I remember when you were, I don't know, we were just sitting there and I could just tell that you were like, this isn't the best version of you. And I want her to show up. Like, I need to make you a protein shake. I need to make you a salad. And I'm like, leave me alone. And you're like, let's go for a walk. Let's do something. And I was miserable and I just needed you to help me. And, once I had the breakup with lit and I got myself into the doors at my holistic practitioner now, it's just a game changer. It's completely night and day. And I can feel my cortisol levels drop. And I can feel my dedication to myself return. And it's been a very empowering path and journey from this last year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked to, a little over a year, a little over a year ago, less than a year ago, about the turbulence that you've been in, right? And anybody who's in turbulence, I mean, if you've been in turbulence in a plane, you know what that does, right? You hold on tight, you're clenching, you're like a little scared, not sure what's going on, trying to breathe. We'll go through like a chunk of life in turbulence. What do you think that does, right? And so there were so many things that kind of worked themselves out and that you were an active participant in working it out, and that you were then proactive in resetting and reestablishing. And this is normal life, right? Nobody's journey in life is like A to B, boom. So, however, a lot of times we do get stuck. Like, we're in turbulence and then we're just like deflated and we don't get out of it. And I think that is one of your most amazing traits is your willingness and desire and your ability to claw your way out of it and know what you need to do and do things even if you don't feel like it, because big sis is kind of forcing you, because sometimes she does know what you need.
Mhm.
and receiving it, right? So yeah, and I mean, the change is remarkable, right? And I know this is the actual version of you. And I didn't meet this you, because you were not this you when I met you 2 years ago.
No, I this version of me is pulling out the 34-year-old. Like, I'm calling her back home. I'm bringing my power back. My power loss that leaked out, I'm reclaiming it all. I am not a victim of any circumstance. I own all of them, but I am also reclaiming my power, and I'm going to use my power. One of the things that was a big impact for me in April was just having someone to lean on and having that support. Yeah, I finding a doctor, finding my me, knowing that I was capable of more. But the one thing that I want to point out is one of my favorite things. And my mom has told me, my mom always comes up in these, but my mom has told me time and time again that most people aren't like me, but I love change. I love facilitating change. I love seeing what I can do to change for the better, just to become a better person, or just to change from who I was yesterday to today. And my mom always says, people aren't like that. I'm like, well, why can't this person just change? Like, why can't it just happen? And my mom's like, it doesn't work like that. And I'm like, I don't get it, because I do. Like, if you tell me this is what you want me to change, I'm going to change it. And then I'm going to keep going. And so one of my biggest attributes, if it was a strengths finder top 5, it would be in there. But change, I love rewiring my brain. I love challenging myself, and I love change.
Well, and you do it quite well, and it's really kind of fun to watch it. Yeah. I would say for me, April, absolutely the highlight was my trip to Alaska. Got invited back to speak at a conference and got to see all the amazing people that I met the year before and reconnect and have so much fun and meet a lot of new amazing people that I'm now connected with and will continue to maintain those connections. And It's, I don't know. It's just an interesting dynamic. There's this core group that I've become very good friends with. And I tell you, anytime I just need to laugh, all I need to do is text them and I will be laughing within 30 seconds. And it's funny that they're, in a whole different nook and cranny of the country. And yet I feel like we're right next door to each other all the time because we maintain that connection. And it's kind of special to have that with people that I literally have known. I mean, for like 6 minutes of my life, basically, right? So that was definitely a highlight of April. And again, just lots of really good experiences with work. My parents officially moved back to Wisconsin in March. So from the time my dad took that trip in January to the time they were like getting the moving boxes received at the house in Wisconsin was less than 8 weeks. And so they've been busy doing all of that. And then, of course, my surgery was at the end of April, April 28th, to remove the melanoma and then do all the doctor appointments, the this, that, and the other, and the whole kerfuffle with, what I was going to have to do next, which turned out to be totally wrong. But here I am looking ahead to May. And then when I think March and April are crazy bonkers, well, May is my absolute busiest, most bonkers month, not only of the year, but of my entire professional career, which is awesome. But in the middle of cancer and this rental property, I'm like, oh, really? So, yeah, I mean, looking, for me, then the motto became just get through May, just get through May. And I know the ebbs and flows of my business cycle, and all my friends and everybody knows, like, look, I'm out. Like, I
Yeah, I
literally,
definitely knew that there was like she was checking out for the whole month. But like, can we brag about how many classes or speaking because the number when you told me, I was like, how is this even humanly possible?
yeah, it ended up being 54 classes. And keep in mind, May has Memorial Weekend, which means there's no work for that whole week. So it's basically 54 classes in 3 weeks, as well as 2 work-related trips, as well as my dad coming to do a whole bunch of work on my property, as well as turns out one of my dear sweet kitties deciding it was her time to go to kitty heaven. So that all threw me for a bit of a loop. I was dealing with cancer, dealing with the property, whatever, fine. Really didn't have on my radar, your cat's going to die, but it did. So yeah,
When I
yeah,
when you told me when you sent me a text and told me that, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like this is not the time. This was not the time, but I guess it was the
yeah.
time.
And honestly, it actually was the perfect time because it turned out my dad was coming to visit anyway. And I was flying home from that trip to New York. I had this amazing group of people I met last year, a Cintas group out in Long Island, Port Washington. And I did a workshop for them last August and they invited me to come back. And so I was out there. It was an overnight trip. And I had my phone like on the table as I'm facilitating the workshop to keep track of time. And I see the text come through from my neighbor, can you call me as soon as you can? And I knew. And I was almost done with the workshop, basically held it together. And we're, doing this catered lunch and meet and greet. And this was this delightful little afternoon until I had to go to the airport. And they could tell something happened. And I mean, these people were it was a leadership workshop, and we had just talked about the traits of leader, right? Kindness, compassion, empathy, like all these things, and they literally just acted out every single thing we had talked about. And it was really comforting to be around them. And I've known them for like 6 minutes, and yet because we spend that much time together and we get kind of deep in conversation about hard stuff, and now here is me, the leader, going through a hard thing in real life at work. And so the way it all went was very interesting, of course. And then that my dad was waiting at DIA for me because he had come in from his flight. And just to be there with me, I can't imagine having to walk in and do all that by myself. And, it's dad, my dad has always showed up for the hard stuff. And I mean, even ones that he didn't know were happening, he just happens to be there. And yeah, so it was the right time because I can't imagine like any of this having gone a different way.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for your dad this year and for your mom. I'm excited to meet them and take a road trip to Wisconsin and pick some of her jade plants and just get to meet them and thank them for creating you. So my highlights for my May were actually all professional. LinkedIn has an ERG called Enable In. So ERG stands for Employee Resource Group. There are several ERGs, but the one that I'm a part of is called Enable In. So we are advocates for visible and invisible disabilities. And at the beginning of this year, they had asked me if I would be the Namer showcase lead, so the North America showcase lead. And what a showcase lead does is basically cheerleads and helps facilitate and plans events for North America. Well, what had happened right before, like in April, right before mental health awareness kicked off, the global showcase, so the person who's responsible for everything globally, she went out on maternity leave and basically like, hey, good luck. You're taking over. Here is what I have, and here you go. And it was probably the best thing ever because then I got to step in and be myself, take over all of it. And we did 16 events in the month of May for all of LinkedIn, and we had over 1,600 attendees for different ones. It was really awesome because everything that I got to do was just me doing it. It wasn't like me trying to do anything other than just being myself. I even wrote a really heartfelt letter transitioning from Autism Awareness Month to mental health and explaining my journey with Kyan. Her birthday is April 28th, which was the same day as your surgery. And this year, the year from last year to this year has been a completely different year for Kyan and I. In the letter that I had wrote, I spoke about how year 1 to 3-ish, 3.5-ish was all in survival mode. And from 3.5 to from 3 to 4 was all in healing mode. I forced myself to start to feel the feelings. And from 4 to 5 was a year of celebrating and rekindling a connection that I had desired and wanted so badly. And, with the help of God and a lot of therapy, I was able to feel my feelings, cry them out, say them out loud, say the things that I never thought I would say. And I wrote about that in an email and I sent it out to everyone. Well, LinkedIn Life got a hold of it and then they published it to go out globally to all LinkedIn members. So that was really cool to be highlighted for doing nothing other than just being myself. And then, this last month, my manager, my manager's manager, and my director all received a letter of praise, basically, of how I just took over the entire Enable In channel and that there was just a lot of success because of me just taking over and being myself. So May was beautiful. It was stressful, but I got to show up and highlight myself professionally, but also just be my me, which was an incredible feat. Trying to think if there was anything else that was really crazy. I think a lot of it was all just professional for me and it was all just that mental health. What probably the coolest out of the 16 things that we threw, the coolest one that I did was I brought in the Mighty. For those of you who haven't heard of the Mighty and you may be experiencing something, maybe a physical or maybe even just a mental or an invisible disability and you feel super alone, I suggest that you go to themighty.com and become a member. So basically, it's just a forum, a social media platform, a forum where you can go and find others with similar symptoms or similar disabilities or, you might leg loss or whatever it is. And then you can start talking to these other people. And then all of a sudden you realize you're not alone. So it's called The Mighty. And I had an event that was The Mighty, LinkedIn, and Microsoft. So I held my very first 3 big company global panel discussion between the Mighty, LinkedIn, and Microsoft. And that was huge for me that it even happened. And I was just over the moon that I get to do that. I get to do that. I get to empower persons who might feel alone, and I get to support, advocate, and educate.
I love this so much for you because I know the professional side of things has been a struggle as well, and really not feeling connected and not feeling like you fit in and feeling like you are beating your head against a wall and like somebody's always fighting and resisting you. And I mean, I know last summer you got to do a big thing at the sales meeting, and that was, probably like the first really big highlight professionally. And so now that like things are just growing and blossoming, and I mean, Sasha, what you've just done is, yeah, this is not the last by any means. That's awesome and so cool. I am so happy for you because to be fulfilled professionally is a big deal. And not a lot of people are. And that it is an intersection of your personal life and your professional life is huge because your personal life is so much about who you are. And not that everybody's isn't. I know yours specifically has so many additional layers to it, and so that are with a company that even allows and supports and offers that platform is it's incredible. And yeah, that's very exciting for me to hear. I didn't know any of this. Of course, I was a little bogged down by my own stuff, but I'm super excited to hear that. It's
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Well, and I know June for you has been a very physical month, my dear. Once again, you go on these long races, beat your body through the paces and come out looking more beautiful than ever. So tell us about those two events in June.
Yeah, so I signed up for a 100-kilometer race, and I did not sleep the night before. I'm telling you, the race started at 5 a.m. in the morning. The last time I had checked my watch was 2 a.m. and I was exhausted. I told myself, listen, Sash, no one's paying you for this. Turn your alarm off. Just show up at the race whenever you can, like whenever you, whatever, and just do your best. And so I did just that. Instead of starting the race at 5 a.m., I'm sure most people would have just thrown in the towel and not gone. I decided to ask if I could join, enter late. So I started the race at 6:30 a.m. and I still got 50 miles in. So that was my first 50 miler. And then 2 weeks later, I did my favorite run, which is called the Dizzy Goat. This is going to be my area where I'm going to tell all of you, especially my women, if you are wanting to get into something, but you're very intimidated, try trail running. Try it. Because there is no speed that is too slow. There's no speed that is too fast. There are people that walk the whole thing and still consider it trail running. It is up to you to set your own tempo. So I was able to do the 12-hour Dizzy Go. I came in third place for women. I completed 51 miles in 11 hours and 52 minutes. The goal was to get that. It was a stretch goal for me. I got it, and I screamed and jumped and squealed, and I was so excited. One of the reasons why I think I was able to do those runs, especially back to back, is because, I am taking my essential amino acids now. I am taking my herbal supplements. I'm making sure that I get enough of my protein. I'm making sure that I'm doing the right things to set myself up for success. And I didn't listen to any music on either of the runs. I just went by myself to meditate the whole time. And I felt very powerful that I was able to move my body with every stride. I was thankful. And, this is, again, my plug. If you are looking for something to do to get physically active and you're intimidated, just find a trail running group near you or something on social media. Just go out for a walk and then slowly but surely just start to jog a little, and then this is how I have done it, is I take the Jeff Galloway approach. Now, Jeff Galloway is probably one of the very first known running coaches out there. He's in his probably 70s or 80s now. He's he's been Olympian, all these things, but he teaches what is called walk, run, walk, or run, walk, run. And what it is giving yourself that permission slip to walk when you need it, or to set yourself up with parameters. So, you're going to run for 4 minutes and you're going to allow yourself to walk for 30 seconds for X amount of time. And so I strongly suggest check out Jeff Galloway, check out trail running, and get yourself out there, because just like Michelle says to me, movement is medicine.
It sure is. And I tell you, I mean, you send me the picture when you did your, 51 miles, and you look more vibrant and alive and glowing than most people who, are just walking around day to day. So, I mean, when you nourish and nurture your human properly, it will serve you. And I love seeing that you're doing that. You're in a place in life where you are taking that seriously and able to do it. And it's very clear, like, that the stuff I teach and preach, it actually works, right? And, I mean, I know most people know that, but you have to do it. And my gosh, movement is medicine. I have to say the one thing that I dislike the most about this past year so far is how little movement I've been able to do. And I still exercise plenty. It's just not the kind of workouts I like to do. Number one, because the schedule was bonkers. Number two, because I had surgery, right? And just things, right? So June, right? Here we are, June, and the schedule, like, 55 classes in May. Oh, yeah, there's like 15 in June, right? And the crazy rental property, well, my dear beloved dad came back and finished all the work. So the property is listed. Hopefully, by the time you hear this recording, it's sold. So, like, that big monster is off my plate. We're tackling the cancer monster. I started immunotherapy, and I'm a little concerned they gave me the wrong drug because I feel really awesome, which I don't think is supposed to happen. Maybe, I don't know. But
Can you knock on wood?
I know, right? I mean, it is only the first round. So, who knows? But I literally am like, every day is a good day. And if I feel amazing, I'm going to go live my life and do my life. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. So, yeah, just to have the time and the space and the energy. I mean, honestly, that was my biggest hesitation about this immunotherapy because the side effects could be nausea, weakness, fatigue, muscle pain, joint pain. I'm like, oh, I feel amazing. Why do I want to go put poison in my body that's going to make me feel that way? I don't have time for that. I want to go do me, right? And again, not to say that that stuff might not show up after more rounds, but the fact that it hasn't showed up yet, great. So I am taking so much advantage of all this extra time I have, and that I also have the energy and doing my workouts the way I like, and just getting back to that, because it really does have an impact on every other aspect of my life. So I am enjoying June for sure, and it's starting to wrap up here. And the other thing that's been a real challenge this year, and I knew it was going to be, but it just compounded because of these additional things, was just not getting to connect with my friends as much as I would like to. And so I have had more like social engagements in June than January through May combined. And it's going to be that way at least through summer. And then, fall, the schedule just gets busy again. So I am really getting my cup filled by all my friends and people, the reestablished connections with. And I have to say, through all this cancer thing too, so many people have reached out, ones that, I'm only tangentially connected to, but also ones that we go back a long way. We just haven't really talked. And that really has meant a lot, quite honestly. So yeah, I think connection, and definitely as we look towards the rest of the year, like, that's a big thing to still, for me, be focused on. I'm in a season of life where nurturing relationships is really important right now. Woo, I'm gonna cry. In that season of life where a lot of people who I love are losing people that they love. I'm gonna let you take over for a minute.
No. Uh,
Oh, you little bitch. Just, I mean, it's happening, and and I mean, that's where we are in life, right? And that I am so grateful that my parents are happy and healthy and thriving. And I think about whose 78-year-old dad comes out and works on their rental property. Like, who gets that? I do. And that's really freaking special. And my mom, who's always so active and encouraging and supportive, and we just booked tickets to go home. I'll be home at their new house at the beginning of July. And then my sister and I are going to be in Ecuador and the Galapagos at the end of July. And then we're going to be in Detroit to go see my mom's favorite Dutch opera singer in September. Just bought tickets for Mamma Mia here. So my sister and my mom are coming in November for that. So it's been nice to like finally like get to look forward because all this other garbage is like in motion now. And to really be thoughtful and intentional about making the connections and getting together with people because everybody's lives are very full and busy, and to not just let summer go by and like, oh, look at that, I never saw you because we just didn't make the effort. So that's kind of what's on the horizon for me. Lots of professional things as well, but right now I'm focused on the personal and the social stuff.
Yeah, I'm focusing on the personal stuff as well, just continuing to be my own advocate, to stand up for myself, to set boundaries, to stop giving chances where they're not earned, to put myself and make myself a priority, as well as, so the way I said it now and my intentions, and I say this to God every day, I am your vessel. And then it goes sobriety, and then it goes myself, and then my children. So it's just a reworking of priorities. And as Astara, who we will get on the show, but she's like my shaman and my other guiding light, has just even yesterday asked me to take off the cloaks that no longer suit me. And I'm doing that. Like, take off the labels that no longer suit you, take off just the title that maybe you thought you wanted to wear or that you wanted to have, and it's just not bringing out what's best for you and your future. And so that's what July, August, September, I'm assuming are going to be pretty rough months for me. I know that the reason I went through so much darkness last year was to make me stronger this year so that I could push through and persevere through all of the difficulties that I'm going to be facing here shortly. But, when I get random texts from the people who do know what's going on behind closed doors, they say, if God is for you, Sasha, what? That could make me cry. Then that means that nothing is against me. If God is for me, that means nothing is against me, or just knowing that I have gotten through 100% of my bad days. And so why not give it my all going forward? And I will. I'm 35 years old. And that is so young to me. Like, when people are like, I'm so old, I'm like, no, you're not. Even like when I talk to you, Michelle, I'm like, whatever, you're not old. And I don't think you've ever said that to me. And if you have, I've definitely corrected you. But yeah. I'm 35 years old. And how I will wrap this up is, one of my biggest motivators is Bethany Frankel. Always bringing in a housewife with my conversations. You're welcome, Bravo fans. Bethany Frankel, at the age of 37, was homeless and didn't have a dime to her name. 37. So that's 2 years for me from now. I'll be turning 36 in September. But if Bethany Frankel can build an empire off of sucrose and lime, artificial lime and artificial sweeteners, then I can establish an empire off of pure intentions and love.
And I have no doubt you will do that. And, I think for both of us, just having this connection and this podcast and all the people who listen, I mean, that's also been really amazing. I know not that long ago, we hit 10,000 downloads, which is kind of a big mile marker. I don't know like how quickly you're supposed to get there. I don't really care, but it's still kind of like, wow, that's a big number. And every now and then I'll get a DM or an email, or somebody will reach out. Oh, I listened to this episode. I'm like, wow, really?
I got one. I've got several actually after the melanoma one that was like, I learned so much, or thank you, I had no idea, you saved me and my children, or whatever. And so, yeah, and those are always so rewarding when I get those. And it's just like, wow, that's awesome. Our banter is working.
It is. And so we are going to continue to do it. And the second half of the year, of course, we'll have more great guests on, and you and I will get to have our little chit chats and all of these things. So I know I'm excited for it. I am ready for a second half reset. May was just get through May. Okay. We're now through June. So I'm ready to reset, revisit some of the things on my vision board that have definitely been put on pause and just see what happens. The universe had a different idea of my be more, do more theme than I had. But I'm ready to reclaim that now. I am ready to take that one back. So that is it, my dear. As always, a delight to chat with you. And everybody, thank you so much for listening and tuning in. And I hope you will go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.